Start streaming. Now, does it connect? Does it work? Yes.
Good
Receiving
question.
your content.
Woohoo! I'm just gonna refresh to see the live part. It's not showing up. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
It's working.
Good thumbnail. Good thumbnail.
It's okay.
I like it.
It's an okay thumbnail.
Well, I like it.
Thank you. I think we're just waiting on a couple of people to come in. So you still know where the part is about where it starts talking about the rumors and stuff on the Mike Tindo page?
Yeah, I just kept it open.
Okay. Then you can do that one.
It's sure complicated.
Wait,
but
I think this the bin guy, Virgibin,
yeah,
that was the person a long time ago that leaked the Smash Bros thing that didn't end up being true.
Right, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we talked about Virgben before. Virgben. No, it's Verge.
But he was right
Yeah,
about
Verge.
stuff before that, apparently.
Yes, this is also true.
The only leaker person that I actually know would be Inor.
Personally? Oh, know of or know personally? Or
Like the only one that I've actually spoken with.
oh,
She was supposed to come on the podcast a long time ago, but what was it? She said something like she'll come on once all of the Nintendo NX Switch rumor stuff died down. Because at that time, I guess everyone was asking her to come on. And it was really odd because like I knew who she was from like Go Nintendo and everyone messaging or posting about her. And then one day I noticed that she had followed me. And I was like, no way. She knows who I am?
weird.
Yeah.
Also, hey people, hey.
Yeah, hello people.
Shout out to us who is a Patreon.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey Michael. Hey George. Hey Justin and Abigail. Look at you all.
Yeah, George, this is basically the only time that we can do this. We would have started like 30 minutes ago, but I had Wi-Fi trouble. And so we just decided to, do it now. Alright. I guess we can begin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you
think
can
we can.
start with the first news piece that we'll do is the big complicated rumory one.
Okay.
And we'll do that after the intro. So make sure you're there so you can do that, and then I'll do one of these others, and then you can do the Pokemon since you like it.
Okay.
Okay.
I like it all.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready?
Yes. So ready.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Hylian Gamescast, episode 70, I don't know. I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse as all of you may know me. Here with us, our faithful co-host, Daniel.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about a new 2D Zelda rumor. We're going to be talking about some new Pokemon leaks and rumors. We're going to be talking about Majora's Mask, reading over some negative reviews for it, giving our thoughts on if they are actually giving good criticism or if they're just being big babies, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if we have time, since we are doing this so late, we may or may not end it with a Zelda mailbag where you can have all of your Zelda questions answered by us. But if you are a Patreon supporter, you can guarantee to have your question answered, just as Wildhorse64, Samuel, Ranjamin, Foxo Andrew, Jonathan, David, Amanda, Jacob, Derek, Blargnar, Michelle, Mandy Lee Plays, Michael, Elmer, Bootleg Boy, Vortex, Gus, Monica, Link Use the Triforce, Lunarium, Shadow to Us, Rusty, Lovable Christy, Fallen Echo, and Justin all have. So, a lot of times like this, we run out of time to do the Zelda mailbag. So, whenever we have to rush or something, well, technically, even when we don't rush, we don't really have time to go through the entire list. So, becoming a Patreon is a way that you can have your question guaranteed to be on, or select a topic for us to discuss for one of the segments. But starting us off with our first piece of news is Daniel. So go ahead, Daniel.
That's me.
Do a nice little introduction for the news.
Oh boy, so this is a rumor combined with a rumor combined with conjecture extrapolated from a message board. It's a lot. It's really complicated, but hey guys, this news comes from MikeTendo64, which is actually a really nice website, but this one is a little it's a doozy. So it is big rumor warning. Get your salt shakers out, take it with a grain of salt, just take the whole shaker, because I personally don't feel like super invested in this rumor, but I don't know. So the rumor, the headline is, a second 2D Zelda in 2019 isn't as unlikely as you think. So we've got to basically trace this back to a GameFAQs forum posting from 2 weeks ago. So when there was a direct coming, the day before the direct, and they asked on the message board, Vergeman, do you have any final words? He didn't really, but someone else on the message board called Zenith Vidya said apparently an eShop 2D Zelda is happening, and Vergeman quoted him and said, I didn't see this was posted until now, but there is more I'll be talking about later. I will confirm that was part of the message I did send Zenith Vidya. It was kind of a like, I don't know, swooping in and taking credit for the rumor, but this combined with some statements from Emily Rogers, who, again, take it with a lot of salt here. She had some predictions about how many Zelda games, some of them being true. So she predicted that a fourth Labo set would be announced, which just was, by the way, the VR kit, and that we'd get 4 eShop exclusive titles for Nintendo Switch this year, as well as, which is inclusive in 12, oh my words, 12 new Switch games this year, 4 of them being eShop exclusive. So we've started to get some announcements with that. We got Tetris 99 as an eShop exclusive, and then we've got Astral Chain, Box Boy Box Girl, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Super Mario Maker 2, Link's Awakening, all announced for Switch. So the conjecture being here that based on the combination of these rumors, that is possible we'll get a new 2D or a remake, an additional remake of a 2D Zelda game. Nintendo seems to be leaning towards a Four Swords Adventure, some kind of anniversary edition, or a remake of the anniversary edition that already came out. But yeah, that's the breakdown of this rumor without having to read it was a really long article on Nintendo Web 64, but that's the gist of it, folks. So the abridged version.
Yeah, so basically they are getting one rumor, combining it with another rumor, combining it with another rumor, and they're just putting everything together.
So,
or at least trying to.
Trying to, yeah. It seems like a lot of conjecture and a bit of a reach to me personally. We're already getting Link's Awakening later this year, so I don't know what the odds are that we'd get a brand new Zelda game that hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem neat, and it would be neat to have maybe just something small scale, like a Four Swords Adventure remake or something. So, um, thoughts, Jesse? Thoughts, impressions,
Yeah, I mean,
viability?
we've gotten multiple Zelda games during the same year before. We've even gotten multiple 2D Zelda games around the same time. With this specific rumor, it's like we've gotten information from one announcement or one interview and placed it with information from another interview to come up with our own speculation, but that is using actual news and information that is confirmed. Like the president of Nintendo saying that he wanted to put a big focus on multiplayer or online gaming and everything to push the Nintendo Online service for fans, and that Nintendo was going to put a big focus on DLC for people, whether it's for older games that have already been out for a while or brand new games having DLC. And then there was another interview with Al Numa where he said that he wanted to take the Breath of the Wild engine and the multiplayer from Triforce Heroes and basically combine them into a new game. So if you take those two individual pieces of information, you can kind of come to the conclusion that Nintendo's next big Zelda game is most likely going to be, or at least in some way, have some sort of online multiplayer aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But that's taking two confirmed pieces of news coming directly from Nintendo, whereas this is taking a rumor from one person, putting it with a rumor from another person, and then making up another rumor on their own.
Yeah, and I mean the one rumor does mention Zelda, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels to me like a reach. I'm not saying it's impossible, of course, because Nintendo pulls games out of their behinds sometimes, and they're like, "Guess what? Here's an announcement. It's available today," and you're like, "What? Oh, okay, all right, thanks, Nintendo." Um, so it's not impossible, but I don't know. For me, it just in my gut doesn't sit right. Like, doesn't feel like legit. I do think Four Swords would be, or Four Swords or Four Swords Adventure would both be good fits because of that multiplayer aspect, which we've heard of Nintendo and Aonuma wanting to play around with some more. But personally, I think I would rather see the Oracle games be remade, because the Oracle games and the first Four Sword games are the only ones I can think of that now, with Link's Awakening coming out, do not have like any remake. Four Swords in itself was a Link to the Past remake, but there's a Link to the Past remake, that, and a Link Between Worlds. Now Link's Awakening has a remake. We've had the N64 games have remakes: Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD. So Skyward Sword, it does not have a remake, and the Oracle games don't, and Four Swords doesn't. But Four Swords Adventure had the Anniversary Edition that was mentioned in this article, and pretty much every other Zelda game under the sun has been remade. So
Four Swords. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was done. It could work though.
Yeah, I was going to say Four Swords would fit with the online stuff that Nintendo said that they wanted to do.
Yeah, totally.
And they did remake it. Technically, it does count as a remake for the 3DS, the Anniversary Edition. I think they added in a new dungeon. I'm not sure. And then they made it. They made it easier to play. Like, instead of having to go to the start menu constantly to change weapons, because the 3DS has more buttons than the Game Boy Advance, they utilized some of those extra buttons. And then there's the online functionality as well.
Yeah.
And then,
And you don't need all those link cables.
yeah.
So many cables.
And also I think they made it so that I'm not really sure on this, but I think that it runs natively on the 3DS instead of being emulated on the 3DS.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then if we look at Pokemon, the original Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, I think it was all three of them at least. It might have just been Red and Blue. Whenever they released it on the Nintendo 3DS, they went back and added online multiplayer for it as well. Mm-hmm. So if you downloaded it, you could just play with your friends or use it to send Pokemon to your Pokebank or whatever it was called at the time. So they have gone back to these older Game Boy Color games and added multiplayer to it. It's basically the same thing they've been doing to all of the NES multiplayer games on the Nintendo Online shop, whatever you want to call it. So it wouldn't be too far out there to say that a new Zelda game is going to be coming to the Switch later on this year. And if one did, it would make sense for it to be a smaller title as opposed to a bigger title, because if they want Link's Awakening to be the big title this year, then they don't need to overshadow it with another. Especially if the other game is also a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy remake, as this would be. So I don't know, there's several different things that it could be, but I looked through a list of all of the Zelda games that they've had before, or that they've released, because I was trying to find, like, the last Zelda game was Breath of the Wild or Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, if you want to count that. And then now we're getting Link's Awakening, which is a 2D remake. And I was trying to see if how many 2D games that they have released between 3D games.
Right.
And between Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, they had both of the DS games, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. So those would be two 2D games that released before a 3D game released. And then they had, obviously, both of the Oracle games. I think there may have been another one before that as well. And I think there was a third time that two 2D games released between 3D games. And we know Nintendo has tons of studios that they have had work on Zelda games. Not Link's Awakening, Four Swords that they're talking about was originally made by Capcom. And then the Four Swords Anniversary was made by Grezzo, or remade by Grezzo, who also went on to remake most of the 3D Zelda games, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and they helped on Triforce Heroes and everything. And for the longest time, the rumor was that they were the ones working on this Link Awakening. Yeah, I cannot talk. The Link's Awakening remake. But Nintendo hasn't said who's working on it.
Oh, that's true.
So we don't know if it was Nintendo, if it was Grezzo, if it was whoever. The only team that I would confidently say did not make it is Tantalus. Because Tantalus, I don't think they've ever remade a 2D game for the Switch. But they did say in the one interview, and none of their games that they had mentioned have been announced yet. But there was that interview that we covered a while back where they said that they were working on multiple remakes for the Nintendo Switch, because all they do is remake games.
Yeah.
So none of the games that they are working on has been announced. And I believe if this was one of the remakes, the Link's Awakening thing, then they would have mentioned that it was from Tantalus. I don't know. Or maybe they wouldn't have, because they want people to be more excited. And if people think or believe that it's being made by Nintendo and not a third party, then they'll be more excited, because they'll think the quality is a bit higher. So, like, I don't know. Like, the main reason that I wanted to cover this after we looked at it, because before we started, we kind of talked whether we still want to cover it or not.
Had to kind of dissect it first to see if it was worth talking about.
And the main reason that I want to is because I'm sure there will be a bunch of other websites, because I came across this morning, I believe, is when I added it to the blog. But I think other websites, like Go Nintendo, will probably share it or something, especially because of the people that it involves, like Emily Rogers. But I think there'll be a lot of websites or YouTube channels that will try to cover it and make it really clickbaity, or not cover all of the facts. They'll just cover the rumor and not talk about any of the actual news or anything. And it'll have misinformation being spread. So
and Mike Tendo 64's article was pretty thorough with the sources of like where these rumors came from and stuff. So it's pretty easy to see where they're kind of filling in the blanks and where they're pulling information. They even do have some quotes from Nintendo in the article. I think it's worth a read, but I wouldn't invest too much stock in it. But definitely I can see it happening. Get your clickbait videos. Even the headline for the article is a little on the clickbaity side, but only a little.
Yeah, because we actually had to dig for the Zelda parts, because it was it was a bunch of information about a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, Tetris 99 and Labo. And it went through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so is there anything else that we want to talk about this? Or do you want to move on to the Pokemon news?
Or we can
should we say Digimon?
I think we probably close the book on that one. But I just want to caution everyone, don't get too invested in this, because it's very I don't know. It's very 50. I'm very on the fence about it. I don't want to get your hopes up, So.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people in the chat. Not a lot of people. There's a few people in the chat earlier that mentioned the fan noise or whatever, and what had happened. I was unaware of this, but my microphone going to Daniel is my good microphone right here that you can see. But the microphone that was going to OBS was my camera microphone. So it was further away from me, so I was a little bit quieter, and the fan noise from my laptop was a little bit louder. And not only was it louder, but the quality of the microphone isn't that great. So what's this? Hey guys, please read the shout out below. Thanks. The Man Boy Cave.
The Man Boy Cave.
Thank you. What is your shout out?
That's a good question.
Triforce Heroes is a follow up because of the success. Okay, so Triforce Heroes. I think Triforce Heroes was honestly sort of the same thing that the Metroid game Federation Force was. I think they were both experiments. I can include this on the end of that last video since it's both Zelda, but I'll go into both of them. But Triforce Heroes, they originally remade A Link to the Past. I think Miyamoto wanted a pure remake, like what Link's Awakening is apparently going to be.
Right.
They could trick us and be like, no, it's just like it's Link's return to Koholint Island or whatever. But anyways, with Triforce Heroes, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. With A Link Between Worlds, it's really late, guys. I'm sorry, my mind isn't quite working. With A Link Between Worlds, Miyamoto wanted to use the 3D technology on the 3DS to completely remake A Link to the Past, adding in a tiny amount of new stuff, kind of like with Majora's Mask, they added in the fishing ponds. So,
Right.
like, a couple of original ideas they had for A Link to the Past, but may not have been able to do. So, just very minor adjustments, like an actual remake of the game. However, Aonuma wanted to create an entirely new game. He didn't want to work on a remake. So they compromised to where they made a what I call a reimagining of A Link to the Past, to where it's a sequel / remake or whatever, like Majora's Mask, remake to Ocarina of Time, Zelda 2, not a remake, a sequel, Zelda 2, a sequel to Zelda 1, Wind Waker, sequel to Phantom Hourglass, which is a sequel to Wind Waker, but none of the games are like a typical sequel to where they still use the same overworld and everything, whereas A Link to the Past is. But A Link to the Past already has a direct sequel in Link's Awakening. But Link's Awakening, being the direct sequel, doesn't even use the same overworld. So, anyways, that's why I call it a reimagining as well as a sequel. But where Aonuma wanted to create something entirely new, I imagine while they were compromising, he probably had some ideas for 2D dungeons for this new game that he wanted to make that couldn't be put into A Link Between Worlds because A Link Between Worlds was to be very similar to A Link to the Past, and these dungeons would have just really stood out. They did change around a lot of the dungeons, but thematically a lot of them are still the same. Like the way they look and everything are basically the same. So I think they took those ideas they had for dungeons, and with Aonuma wanting to make a new game and the 3DS being multiplayer and everything, and then they had the team with Grezzo helping them and stuff. So that's where I think Triforce Heroes came from, is they still had the engine, all of these ideas from when they did want to make a new Zelda game, and Aonuma wanted to, and since A Link Between Worlds had already released, they just went ahead and like used all of the extra ideas and stuff they had for whatever the new game is, and just made this experimental Triforce Heroes, because they were working on Breath of the Wild at the time, and Breath of the Wild originally was supposed to have some multiplayer functionality. One of the very first things that Aonuma said about Zelda Wii U or Breath of the Wild was that he didn't want you to think of it as a single player experience. And obviously, Breath of the Wild is entirely single player. You have Wolf Link, but that's about it. So I think his need to make this multiplayer Zelda game, I think Miyamoto or Iwata or whoever was in like had the final say told Aonuma no, that he could make a multiplayer Zelda game like a smaller game on the 3DS, and if it did well, then he could make his big multiplayer Zelda game, which apparently is what happened, because once again, after Breath of the Wild released, Aonuma's interviews were him saying that he wants to make a multiplayer Zelda game. So that's my idea and thoughts on how Triforce Heroes came about, and it's kind of the same thing with Metroid Prime Federation Force, to where I think, or it was kind of like the Star Fox adventure game on the Gamecube, to where it was originally Dinosaur Planet or something like that.
Right. And it got rebranded.
Yeah.
Rare.
Rare.
To be Star Fox.
Was it Rare that was working on it?
It was Rare, yeah.
Yeah, they were working on it, and they had this entirely new IP, but Nintendo didn't really think it would sell as well. And they were like, wait a minute, we haven't had a Star Fox game in a while. Why don't you just make all of this Star Fox? And then that way, like, you can make the people that want a Star Fox game happy. The game will likely sell more because people know the Star Fox brand and everything. So I think Federation Force was kind of the same situation, to where maybe they were working on an entirely different game or a newer IP, and they were just like, well, we haven't had a Metroid game in a while. Everyone's wanting Metroid. I said Metro, didn't I? I can't talk. My mouth is dry. But
You said it. You said it.
we so basically Nintendo looking at it being like, okay, well, this is interesting. You have this weird mini game, sports ball game in it, whatever it was called. Do you remember?
Blast ball.
Blast ball? Yeah. So like that, they had that in there and stuff, and then Nintendo basically being like, well, this looks okay, but if we want a lot of people to buy it, why not just make it a Metroid game? And then that, yeah, because there was the interview, there's the interview Reggie had at that E3, like, I think it was at the E3, directly, like the same day, or maybe it was the next day, Reggie was like, we know this isn't the Metroid game that fans want, but we know the game that fans want. So, like, he kind of hinted at, like, we know this isn't what the Metroid fans wanted, but don't worry, because we're also working on the game that they do want. We just can't say it yet, so I'm just kind of being vague about this game. That's my thoughts. But what's yours?
Yeah. I got nothing. I
Nothing
do wanna,
at all?
It's not related to what you were saying at all. But the Man Boy Cave mentioned his shout out in the chat, so
Oh, yeah, we'll read
I
it.
just wanted to shout him out to his dog Bolt. I'm really sorry to hear about what happened, man.
Oh,
Boy.
I gotta scroll up and read that.
So he said, I love this channel. I'm having a super tough day. My dog was hit by a car and passed away this morning.
Oh my
It's great to have you
gosh.
guys live to distract me for a bit. Please give a shout out to Bolt. He was an amazing dog. So, I mean, it's pretty heavy, guys, but yeah, I'm really good, man, and it's not easy. But I know you'll probably tough through it and you'll be okay. But yeah, man, my condolences. It's terrible.
That is really sad.
It is. I don't know. I'm not good at this kind of thing, but yeah, I'm glad we could be some company in the meantime. So
Yeah.
thank you. You didn't have to donate for that shout out. You know,
No, you
but we appreciate it. But
donate for that.
you did not have to donate for that one, man. It got our attention, but yeah, we do read the chat a bit, so it's yeah, I almost feel bad that you give us money for that. So but yeah, man, well, hang out with us for a bit, and I hope you can be a good little hangout, good company in the meantime. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch Chiblima's stream last week when she was doing the Twilight Princess on my channel?
I was not able to watch it.
It was
because
when
of timing reasons.
Layla was at my house, or obviously, I was
Oh,
watching
yeah.
Layla, and she doesn't she knows that I think she understands that I do YouTube or whatever, like I make videos for work and stuff, but I don't think she really understands. She's just like, she looks at the phone or the laptop or whatever, and she's like, that's you. And then I showed her some of the videos that had her in it when she was a baby, and like I was the one who basically did everything when she was a baby. So whenever I would go to work, I would work with her, which was kind of easier at that time because she wouldn't talk, or if she did, it wasn't like actual words or anything. It was just baby noises, which no one's going to complain about because it's too cute.
No, everyone loves little loaf babies.
Yeah. But anyways, I was watching it on the TV, and I was trying to do something to keep her occupied. So I had the idea to have Kayla, or Chiblima, to give Layla shout-outs on the TV. That way, Layla would be like, this person on TV's talking to me. So there is a part where she takes the Wii U gamepad, and she, like, Chiblima's video is, like, in the bottom corner. So she
Right.
holds the gamepad up to the very bottom of the corner of the
Oh,
screen.
just trying to show her.
Yeah, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. She can't see us or hear us. She just, yeah. So like I had to explain it to her, but every single time that she would do something, like her mouth would like drop open and she'd smile really big. It was really cute.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's heartwarming.
So tell us about Pokemon.
Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. All right.
Do one I forgot.
Oh, I have too many tabs
It's my
open.
thing.
This is your thing?
Not the Pokemon, the other thing. I don't know. Like cause like you did the first one. I was gonna do the second one, and then you were gonna do the third one.
Do it. Or do you want me to just jump in with Pokemon? What do you want to do? Just what do you want to do?
You can do the Pokemon one, and then I'll do something.
All right. Here's a little leak that happened. Armored Evolution. Right. So this is news that comes from Dexerto.com, which is actually not a website that I've ever been to before. But there was a leak that they were reporting on about Armored Evolutions coming to Pokemon Sword and Shield. So we'll just jump in. Let the Pokemon Sword and Shield rumor begin. A leak that correctly predicted the name of the new Pokemon game in the region has also stated a concept called Armored Evolutions will be included. So in a now deleted 4chan post, the title of the new Pokemon games was correctly predicted on February 21st. This post also said the region would be Great Britain. Based on early indications of the Galar region, this also appears to be true. Side note, if any of you guys know the Larulian historian, follow his Instagram, you'll see he actually draws some comparisons on that note as well. It also states some other features from Pokemon Sword and Shield which have yet to be proven true or false. Legendary Pokemon are Metal Snake and Wooden Horse. Probably not those names. There will be armored evolutions, including Armored Charizard, Armored Mewtwo, Armored Flygon, kind of weird, and Zerora. And Meltan will tie into the Armored Evolution and Legendary lore of the game. The concept of Armored Evolution isn't elaborated on, but it is believed it will work in a similar way to Mega Evolutions. More specifically, it will be the ability for certain Pokemon to utilize a temporary evolution, probably exclusive to battle. Furthermore, the leaker also confirmed that Pokemon that will have this evolutionary ability, but Charizard, Mewtwo, Flygon, and Zerora. Yeah, and that's kind of the gist of that rumor. There's a bit more goes on about some Johto region starters, but yeah, what do you think about that, Jesse? There's a really funny picture on the article where they put Charizard in.
So
armor, but
it kind of makes sense if you take the name literal and the fact that they've been making, like, used to from Pokemon Gen to Pokemon Gen, there were like minor upgrades and stuff, but then aside from adding in new Pokemon, just gameplay wise, they were like, oh, there's a new type or new moves or whatever. But the last few generations, they added like Mega Evolutions or XY moves, or not XY moves, Z moves or whatever. And then like all of these new things that they were adding in, and then we had the discussion, what do we think the new thing for this Pokemon generation is going to be? And what this is kind of saying, and again, this is taking the sword and shield thing literal, like if it's if the main items in the game, kind of like how they name Zelda games, like they name it after, typically it's an object of importance to the story, or a character. But there's like Minish Cap, Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, all of these different things. So if it's like going the same route with Pokemon, then, and even with the last one, Ultra Sun and Moon, where they introduced the Ultra Beasts, where you would have to go through the Ultra Wormholes or whatever they were called. So if this is following that trend that Zelda does and the last Pokemon game does, then the Sword and Shield, if they take that as armor or something that the Pokemon can actually use in the game, like it's a legendary sword that was used by a certain Pokemon, or a legendary shield that was used by some Pokemon, which most Pokemon can create their own out of energy or whatever their moves set is. But yeah, like it would just, I don't know, like Pokemon can already hold items. So what if it's just like something like that, to where like it's an item that you have your Pokemon hold, and suddenly like its attack doubles or its defense doubles or something like that, and then you can actually see, like if it's the shield or whatever, then the Pokemon's wearing an outfit or something, which in the last Pokemon game, the remakes, they added it in to where like your starter Pokemon that comes along with you literally does wear outfits. That's one of the main game mechanics, is dressing it up in different stuff to make it look like you, or you dressing like it. So if they do that in this game to where it actually affects the battles as well, to where like it has that Charizard that looks like I think it's a Charizard. I forgot what the image looked like, but he's wearing the armor and everything to where it looks.
Yeah, it was Charizard.
It looks like Metal Greymon, to where like he's wearing the leather slash going around or whatever it is around the neck, and then he has the giant metal claw that looks like a glove and stuff. But the Charizard looks like it's just wearing like old-timey medieval leather armor. So I think that there's a chance it could be real, because again, if they're taking the sword and shield thing literally, as they did with Ultra Sun and Moon, because whenever they had Sun and Moon and then they had Ultra Sun and Moon, I remember a lot of people thought, like, why is it not Sun and Moon 2, like Black and White and Black and White 2, and why is it, yeah, like they just thought like putting Ultra in front of it was stupid. But that's what Nintendo does. They've always done stuff like that, to where the Nintendo 64 originally was going to be called Ultra 64. Whenever the Game Boy Advanced came out, the Pokemon season on TV, they called it Advanced or Advanced Battle or whatever. That way it would tie into the system that the game was on, the Super Nintendo. They just use those words where it's like super, ultra, great, whatever.
Yeah.
So whenever the what? You?
New.
Oh.
that's the latest one.
Yeah. Yeah, new is. But that's just the idea that I got. They should have named, maybe that would have been stupid, I don't know. I was thinking like they should have named the new Pokemon remake, because it's like a game for casual beginners or whatever. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Like, I was thinking, what if they would have called it like New Pokemon? That way, because it acts in the same way that the new Super Mario Bros. Does, to where it's basically the same game as the original, but it's multiplayer or whatever, which the new game is multiplayer. Like, it's the first time you could have two people on the same screen. I don't know, that's off topic.
I mean,
but
new Super Mario Bros. Is not it's not like a faithful remake. Like,
no, but like that was the inspiration behind it.
Yeah.
It was just like Miyamoto said he wanted it to, in the old Mario games, he always wanted to have it like multiple characters on the screen at the same time instead of taking turns. But anyways, that's just my idea, like taking it literal, just having armor and sets and stuff that the Pokemon can wear.
Yeah, it would be cool, actually, because then, it's a little more heavy RPG mechanic, but like having different gear and stuff to swap out for the Pokemon, but it could be cool.
Yeah, like in Zelda, like you get the Goron armor, and you can, like, take fire better or heat better, or if you get the Zora armor, you can breathe underwater. So maybe it's the same thing in Pokemon, to where like obviously it's not called the Goron armor or whatever, but like there's a suit that if you have a fire Pokemon, if you put on this water resistant suit, instead of taking double damage from water moves, maybe that gets cut in half. Or maybe there's another one that makes your speed go up or whatever. I don't know. There's just ideas.
Yeah. Good ideas though. So
do you have anything to add?
I think
or any new features that you would love to see?
Funny.
The picture's funny.
Picture's funny. I love it. Yeah, I don't know if I've got any more than that. Like, it would be neat to be able to like customize the outfits and stuff a bit more. Like in the Let's Go games, they were strictly cosmetic, so it'd be cool to have outfits that actually have perks to them.
Can you think of any other Nintendo series to where they added in
New Island
armor and stuff to where you like it affects your abilities and stuff?
Game?
Yeah, like Triforce Heroes we were talking about just a minute ago. Obviously your weapons are all based on your outfit. Zelda kind of always did it to where like different not armor upgrades, but like the different colored tunics would level you up or have different abilities. And then they went
Zelda 1.
Yeah, and they went super into it in Breath of the Wild. So
yeah.
And then that would be a cool way for them to sell amiibo for this new Pokemon game, because there's already like Charizard and Mewtwo and stuff, but suddenly if you could get like a really cool looking Mewtwo, or even the way Mewtwo looks at the beginning of the first Pokemon movie, to where he's like wearing all of the science experiment gear that with the wires and cables and everything going to him.
Yeah.
Like if they could sell an amiibo like that unlocks that look for Mewtwo in the game. Kind of like they had the Pokeball. If you bought it, you would get Mew. And Let's Go Pikachu. But
you get one Mew.
Yeah.
So what if you restart your game, you don't get Mew?
I have a problem in the chat. Stakana says Breath of the Wild still does not have a story. I strongly disagree, sir or madam, that Breath of the Wild has a great story. Not only do the memories tell a story, but all of the characters in the game tell a story. The different cutscenes all tell a story. You can find diaries and everything else. Like, there's tons of story in the game. Like, even if you don't talk to a lot of NPCs or find a lot of the diaries or books or whatever, the game itself, through the cutscenes and everything, like, if you sit and just watch all of the cutscenes, not even play the game, which I've done before, there's like 2 to 3 hours worth of pure story. So
I have not done that, but
there's tons of story in the game. It's just some people don't pay attention.
You definitely have to. You get what you give out of the story for Breath of the Wild. So which is actually something I like about it, is that if you don't want to pay attention to the story and just you want to go fight Ganon, you can do that. But if you want to go look around, read everything, read all the journals and everything, and you can do that too. Yeah, it's a different approach than previous Zelda games have taken, but it is there. I really enjoy Breath of the Wild story as well, and I don't think it's perfect, but it's great. I still love it, and evidently I'm a fan of the game. But no, I do. I really enjoy it, and it's but it's to each their own, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the Japanese version has more story, because the Hyrule Compendium is made up of, like, it's basically Link's journal, as opposed to a computer telling you about stuff.
Yeah, and I think his like adventure logs, like the quest screen and stuff, they tell it in a more first-person perspective in the Japanese version than in the English version. The English version's like, you talked to this guy and he said to do this. In the Japanese version, it's like, I talked to this guy and he said I should look into this. It's a very subtle difference, but I think it has actually pretty big impact on the impression you get of the story, you know?
May I ask you something that I asked you last podcast?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What kind of end game do you think this game will have? Because they have...
Right, and...
Yeah, like in silver and gold, you could travel back to Kanto. And with this game, like in this art style, they have Kanto already made, but they also have the Alola region already made.
That's a good point.
So, do you think the end game could be going back to Kanto, or do you think it could be going back to Alola, since both of them are already made? Or, I think it was, I forgot which game it was, but one of them had like the battle frontier, to where it's like they're not necessarily gyms or gym leaders, but they had like the frontier and the frontier brains, which I forgot what it was, but I was actually reading on it last night. Whenever they made the game, had them in the new generation going to the different places, and the anime at the time, because Fire Red and Leaf Green had just come out, instead of being in the area, like the new generation area, they had went back to Kanto, and Ash was like running around with Brock and May, I think, and they were trying to find all of these secret frontiers, or whatever they were called, which again was like gym leaders, but they were secret, only for like really advanced trainers to know about, because the gym leaders are there to like teach you how to, like, pretty much the basics or whatever. Battle Frontier was Gen 3, says Stakona. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. But yeah, like, I think that would be really cool. They said they didn't bring it back for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which was the remake after Leaf Green and Fire Red. Or no,
right,
after Soul Silver and whatever. But
Heart Gold,
yeah,
is it?
They said that they didn't add it to that because it was one of those things where, like, Nintendo basically, in nicer words, says that the players are too stupid to do it, because they said, like, they thought it would be too hard and challenging, and most players would just give up if they included the Battle Frontier in the new remake. But I hope it's something they add to this game, to where you go through all of the normal gems, or whatever they have in this game, and then the end game is like a Battle Frontier, or whatever.
Sad.
I don't know.
Why Nintendo say this about people?
Well, it's like the original Zelda game. They originally had it to where you could create your own dungeons, but then they were like, if we add this in here, or Miyamoto thought if they added that in there, then most players would just think creating a dungeon is too hard and give up on the game, not even making it through the actual story game or the main game. They would just be like, well, it's too hard creating this dungeon, I'm not going to do it. And then around the same time was when they had, like, they were adding to Skyward Sword. if you got lost, you could literally crawl into the Sheikah Stone and it would show you what to do. They did it with Ocarina of Time 3D. New Super Mario Bros. Super Mario 3D World had a thing to where, like, if you die 3 or 4 times in a row, it gives you the golden Tanuki suit, to where
I think it's like 5.
you can just
die 5 times in a row.
like you can just touch something and it'll kill them instead of you. So around the same time, Nintendo was doing everything they could because they thought players were just too dumb to do it themselves.
Oh, that's a shame. And yet they still released Metroid on the NES. The game is hard, man.
Have you ever beat it?
No, God, no. I hate it too much. But it's the only Metroid game I've genuinely not enjoyed playing. But yeah, I don't know. I as far as post game goes, I don't know what they could do. I liked the Master Trainers and everything in the Let's Go games, but I'm not. I'm not into grinding, and that's the thing, is you really needed to grind for that kind of stuff. So, that's kind of where I don't know as much about Pokemon, to be honest, because I haven't played that as many Pokemon games as I have maybe the Zeldas or Mario's. But
well, you bought
I enjoy them.
both copies of Pokemon Let's Go.
I did. I also have both Sun and Moon, but neither of Ultra games. But
and you didn't even do the collector's thing to where, like, you get it cheaper for buying both of them. You bought the first one, and then you your wife and your son all enjoyed it. Yeah, you enjoyed it so much you went and bought the other one. So both at full price. So playing through that, were there any features that you want included? Do you want to have to catch 50 different Pokemon before you can get a Charmander?
No.
Isn't that how the Let's Go games are? You have to catch 50 individual Pokemon before you can get a Charmander? I read that on, like, a trivia thing.
Or there's an NPC who will give you one. No, wait, no, you're right. You do have to do that, but then it's really easy to do that. Like, if you just catch Pokemon as you're going through the game.
Yeah.
So there's like a Squirtle, a Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, a Bulbasaur, and a Charmander throughout the game that the NPCs will give you, and they all have amazing stats. Yeah, that's things like the first one, the Bulbasaur, is like, oh, you have to have caught 30 total Pokemon, but by that point you're already in like Cerulean City, and you're like, okay, I've already done that.
There's two things that I want to ask you, but depending on how much you've done in the game, I don't want to spoil it.
I've beat the game.
Okay.
So
did you catch Mewtwo?
Yeah, I caught Mewtwo.
Did you take Mewtwo to the laboratory that's like all the way in the basement or whatever, where he was created?
I have not. But playing through it, okay, so weird moment. So we got one of the Pokeballs. So Spencer, my son, took Mew into his game, the Pokeball, before any of us could. That's fine. We got it for his birthday, so he got Mew in his game. When he was at that part, he had Mew as his walking buddy. He's traveling outside the Pokeball. When you walk into the lab, this might be a spoiler or something, but it's really minor detail. Walk into the lab, Mew will leave you and go to the container that Mewtwo is being held in, and he'll just stand in front of it, like staring at it. And if you walk into it, it's like Mew is staring eerily at this container. And it's like, that's a weird detail. Like, what does he know? Oh no. But no, I haven't gone into the lab with Mewtwo. I have taken Mewtwo to all the gyms and the Elite Four and whooped everyone's butt using Mewtwo. But but now I'm very curious. Now I need to try this actually.
Yeah,
I feel like something happens now.
it's nothing big. He just he gets an exclamation point above his head,
Right.
like he's aware of the area.
Hmm. Probably
And
similar than with the Mew thing.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
if you did you get the like did you join Team Rocket?
Join Team Rocket.
Yeah.
No. No, I don't. You can't.
Like after you beat the game or whatever it is, like in the end game, you go to this one
Mhm.
area and Team Rocket's there with, Jesse, James, the Meowth,
Right.
and
Yeah, they'll give you like the gear and
yeah,
ask you to join, but you
yeah,
can't actually accept it.
that's what I
You can
meant. But they give you the
gear,
gear
but
though.
yeah, they give you the costume for it.
Yeah. So those are my two questions.
Spoilers.
But is
Spoilers
there
for
anything
game
from the game that
out.
you liked that you would like for them to bring over?
Nothing. I hated the whole game. No, I'm
Mm.
kidding. Yeah,
I
no,
want
I
Team
really
Rocket to
liked.
come back to it.
I wish.
Because I don't like Team Rocket's been in games, but I don't know if Jesse and James have ever and the Meowth have ever been in the game.
I'm not sure. They were really fun in the game though. Like fun recurring characters, and yeah, the post game in that game is very fun. I enjoy it a lot. Um, being able to like go through and use like your flying Pokemon to like fly over everything, is really cool.
You
I
can
kind of
have
wish
your Charizard poop on people's heads.
exactly. The only thing is I kind of wish that those areas were a bit more open, because even though you're flying over the obstacles, you're still stuck in the confines of like a grid area.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess part of me is so spoiled by Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey and Starlink and all these games that are really open
Did you
games.
notice if the areas in the new Pokemon game are more open? Because with Let's
It's
Go
hard to
Pikachu
tell.
and Eevee, it makes sense for them to be like so narrowed in the paths because it is a remake of the original. So like they couldn't
Yeah.
really make the towns that much bigger. But with this, it's a new game. So like I wonder if the areas are expanded to where now instead of this path that you have to go through to
Hmm.
where like you can only take two or three it's only like two or three steps wide but you can walk through town with the path. I wonder if it is to where like it's like a giant area that you can just go anywhere and
Yeah, I mean, it looked kind of like it, but it was hard to tell from the footage they showed off. But I wouldn't be surprised because everybody's been drooling after wanting a more open world Zelda game or not Pokemon game. My word.
what about voice acting?
Voice
Do you think that could be in the
acting?
game? I mean they already have voice acting for the Pokemon, but
Yeah. You know what I really don't want is them to recycle the. I want updated voice clips for the Pokemon instead of recycling the Game Boy voice clips. Like in the Let's Go games,
yeah.
they basically reused, except for Pikachu and Eevee, they basically just reused all the same voice clips from the Game Boy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can Eevee, who makes a cute Eevee sound, evolve into Vaporeon, who makes this 8-bit gurgling sound? And I'm like, I don't like it. So especially because in Smash they've got updated voice clips, and in the anime they've got updated voice clips and everything. It's like just these games that are like clinging on to these weird janky sounds.
Yeah, but it would suck if every time you ran into Team Rocket, it just played that cutscene over and over. They would
Yeah.
be just as annoying as the show. But
Yep.
do you have any final things before we move to the next?
That wraps up what I had in mind.
All right, we can go to the Majora's Mask
Like-
thing, I guess.
Sweet. Oh yeah. Majora. Bojangles. Okay. Take us away.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Hylian Gamescast. I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse as all of you may know me. Here with us is our co-host, Daniel, and today we're going to be discussing bad Majora's Mask reviews. So we've already had videos about this, or similar to this, on Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, and now we are doing Majora's Mask. We'll probably go through all of the more popular, maybe just all of the Zelda games. And what we're doing is we understand that even with a game that's a 10 out of 10, or whatever our personal favorite games are, there can still be some things wrong with it. And a good reviewer or a good fan would be able to pick out those things. But if you go into a game like Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64, and you give a review that's like, well, the Nintendo 64 is Nintendo's first console that allows 4 players, yet this game is single player, that's stupid, 0 out of 10. Then you're not giving good criticism, or criticism at all, you're just being an idiot. So,
yes, or I hate how this game looks, so I didn't buy it. I give it a 0 out of 10. It's like, you shouldn't review this game. You yeah.
Another thing on the last video with Ocarina of Time, an example, someone said that the game was boring, all of the dungeons were the same, all of the bosses were the same, you could just crouch stab all of them and be done with it, to where you can't, and all of the dungeons aren't the same. They all have different puzzles that use the different items in different ways. They're all themed differently. There's fire, water, ice, mini dungeon, forest, everything, shadow, spirit, whatever. Spirit's basically a light dungeon.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Sand dungeon. I feel like we should clarify with that, because there were some comments on the last video about this, the crouch stab thing.
Yeah.
We didn't mean you can't crouch stab them at all.
Yeah.
We were just saying that you can't only crouch stab the bosses. You need to do another phase of the battle, like shoot them in the eye with an arrow first, and then sure, you can crouch stab them, guys. Don't worry. In fact, on my live stream, I did crouch stab Bongo Bongo with the big Goron sword. It's doable, but I couldn't do the boss fight by only crouch stabbing him. I had to shoot him. So that was the point we were getting at, just for people who were really angry about us saying you couldn't crouch stab the bosses. That's not quite what we meant. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you can choose to crouch stab after you like stun the enemy in whatever way that you need to stun them. But like, if you try to go in like you're playing Zelda 2 and you just go to the corner and start crouch stabbing, you're just going to look dumb.
Yeah.
And die really quickly. But like, if you go to Volvagia or Volvagaya, however you want to pronounce it, and he's flying around dropping rocks and stuff, or his head's coming out of the little holes in the ground, you can't just crouch stab. You have to shoot arrows while he's flying around and hope you hit his head, or you have to wait until he comes out of the hole and hit him with the hammer. With Twinrova, you have to absorb the attacks in your shield, reflect it back, and then you have to dodge the attacks that are of the opposite. Like, if it's fire that you're absorbing, you have to dodge the ice. And then you have to run towards her, jump on the platform she's on, and then attack her. Like,
then you can crouch stab her.
Yeah, literally none of the bosses allow you to just crouch stab the entire time. That's what we were talking about. Because all of the different, like, they all make use, or for the most part, they make use of their individual dungeon items that you get. So that's what we were talking about. But anyways, Daniel.
Yes.
Also another stupid one that I remember, Breath of the Wild, someone says that, like, it's basically impossible to save in the game, to where
You can pause.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can pause and save the game anytime you want. Plus, the game auto saves like 90% of the time. Like every time you go to a new area or you
or
do
you're like
anything.
close to a bokoblin camp, and it just auto saves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Daniel, which one do you have for us? We'll
Right.
probably go through 4 of these, so 2 each.
I did find one, but where is it? Okay, I found it. Sorry, it took me a second. So, Char, or maybe it's Char, wrote back in the year 2002. This is a very rage-filled review. Just one sentence. No, it's 2 sentences. Sorry. It doesn't even deserve the name Legend of Zelda. Poor storyline and redone OOT dungeons make Majora's Mask nothing but a cheap Ocarina of Time remake. So here's the problem: is that I don't think there's any repeat dungeons between the two. They're all pretty different, even though there's similar like elements. Like there's ice dungeon, there's a water themed dungeon. You like in every Zelda game, pretty much. They're pretty different from the ones in the Ocarina of Time, and also everything else is really different. Like the graphics are the only thing that they've reused some of the assets for character models and stuff. The 3-day cycle instead of the 7-year back and forth thing. The warping is handled differently. The saving is handled differently. Link has a completely different model. The transformation masks. There's only 4 dungeons and a jillion side quests. It's not even in Hyrule. Like there's nothing remake about this. So basically, I don't think this person knew what they were talking about. The dungeons are not like the dungeons being redos or redone dungeons are that's a very unsubstantiated claim. I don't remember the part where you go in the Deku Tree in Majora's Mask, or in Jabu Jabu's belly, or Dodongo's cavern, or any of them.
I wonder if they think like, oh well, this is forest themed, just like the other forest themed dungeon, or like this one's water themed, like the other, or like they see Gorons.
It's still handled really different because like the forest theme dungeon, it was a swamp theme really, and the theme of it inside the dungeon is a lot more like it's not even really like forest themed in the dungeon. Like there's a lot of dark elements in that dungeon.
It would be more wind
it's
themed.
like more wind and like dark ruins,
like almost. The one from Wind Waker, like the one where you have to use the Korok to fly around.
Yeah. There's no fire dungeon in Majora's Mask because the next one's an ice dungeon instead, and it's got a fire pit at the bottom of it, I guess. But the rest of it is it's an ice themed dungeon, and it's handled differently from the ice cavern in Ocarina of Time. It's because it's basically centered around one central tower room. The water dungeon, rather than being like a water temple, is like really just a mechanical themed dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And Stone Tower is like a whole different beast, which I don't think even has a counterpart. Maybe closest thing is like kind of the Spirit Temple, maybe, but that's a stretch even. So basically, for me, it does not make sense. I like Stakona's comment in the chat here. There is grass, trees, rock, water, and lava. Same game as last game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like exactly. That's
what I liked about Skyward Sword. Really quick is that it kind of sort of deviated from the themed dungeons. Like there wasn't just a water dungeon. It was like a half water, half shadow temple.
Yeah.
But then there was like 2 fire dungeons, so maybe I'm just stupid.
No, but even still, then there's also Skyview Temple just twice. But it's Skyward Sword did, I think, deviate, in my opinion, nicely. Like, it starts out almost that way, where you're thinking like, okay, it's gonna, we're gonna go through the mode. You got your forest dungeon, you got your fire dungeon, and they're like, and now it's time for the desert and time travel, and you're like, oh, what? Okay, this is kind of neat. It's mechanical desert themed. It's a factory level in a Zelda game.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a pretty big deviation. So, yeah, no, I agree with your point there, Mister. So, yeah, I don't know. People are just I don't get where their point was coming from, but thanks for that entertainment there, Shar.
This one
What do you got?
comes from ASD FRE, which is right below it. 0 out of 10.
Oh.
From January 13th, 2017, so 2 years ago. They may have just left this review. They leave it on the Nintendo 64 version, so maybe that was when they re-released it for the Wii U and the eShop.
Okay, maybe.
Because they would have left it on the 3DS version if they would have played that. But anyways, it says, not only is this game overrated, it is also one of the worst Zelda games I have played. The Groundhog Day gimmick is forced down your throat. There is very little story, and there are some of the worst dungeons and bosses I've seen in the series. There are only...
the bosses are not the strong suit of the game. I'll give them that.
Well, there's only 4 of them.
There's only 4, though. That's true.
Yeah. There are only 2 side quests worth the effort, despite claims that all of them are brilliant. It is a crime that this sorry excuse for a Zelda game is ranked above Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. Sorry, contrarians, this is a video game that did deserve the hate when it came out. So he mentions the bosses, that they're just really bad or horrible. But then he mentioned Skyward Sword, which did have a couple of good bosses.
Yeah,
but that's also the game where you return to Girihim 3 different times. That could have been used. Yeah, that could have been used for 3 other actual bosses, and you return to the imprisoned 3 different times, which again could have been used for 3 others. So even if you just fought Girihim once,
if you count the Thunder Dragon's trials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you, like, the way they do it is they give you... So if they gave you Girihim and the Imprisoned 1 time each for the end of the game, then that's 4 bosses that you could have gotten in the game. Because they actually tricked me with the Fire Temple or the Earth Temple, whichever it is, I forget. But it's the one where you have to get the fire lava dragon guy, Din.
Yeah, it's not the Earth Temple. That's the first one you do. It's got to be the Fire Sanctuary.
Yeah, it's the second time that you fight Girihim. So in the trailer, I remembered seeing like Link walking along this little bridge thing, and there was like, you could see the body of a dragon, like part of the dragon comes out of the lava, but it's just like the tail of it, and then it kind of goes back in. Like it doesn't actually come out. And in the trailer, I was like, is that a reference to Volvagia? To where like in this fire-themed dungeon, you're going to fight a fire dragon? And it got me really excited. So the entire game that I was playing, I was looking forward to that. Because they're like, hey, you gotta go find this fire dragon to get him on your side. Or whatever. Breath of the Wild kind of played around with this to where you have to fight one of the dragons. But in this game, I was thinking, well, Volvagia is an ancient dragon that a hero a long time ago with the Gorons, or an old Goron a long time ago, killed Volvagia, and then Ganondorf brings him back to life or whatever. So I'm like, what if this was Volvagia when he was originally alive? So in my head, I was like, this is amazing. Nintendo actually like put together a really genius idea to link this game to Ocarina of Time, which they did with in a lot of other ways. But then you get to the boss room, and it's just Girahim again. And it was one of the biggest letdowns of the game. But anyways, he put Skyward Sword above Majora's Mask, which you can like Skyward Sword more than Majora's Mask. It doesn't matter, but it's just like when he talks about the bosses. The first boss, I thought was very like, I don't like the noise that he makes when he's like, when he's like jumping around or whatever and making that noise. But I thought it was really cool because you never see an enemy that you fight in a Zelda game that also has a sword. Like the closest was the Dark Nuts.
Right.
So I thought it was interesting to finally have someone who has a sword and shield or whatever that's attacking, but it sucked. It was a giant because then like the sword combat really isn't part of the gameplay. It's just attacking him the other way. Like your sword combat is, but like it really wouldn't matter if he had a sword or if he was just smacking towards you. But I thought that was cool. The Goron boss was yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Got.
But I used to go back and replay that boss all the time because it was really fun playing as the Goron, like having a reason to do the Goron role. And then I thought, I didn't like the third boss, but the fourth boss I also thought was really fun because you can turn into a giant or you can stay small and shoot. I don't know, like I just thought it was really cool. So, but you know, that's his opinion. He can choose to not like it or whatever. But then there's the thing about the side quests that like there's no point to the side quests. They're all boring except two. Those two likely, probably the ones that lead, like the two different side quests that both connect and lead to the couple's mask or whatever.
So probably the Andrew Cafe one and the aliens.
Yeah.
That's a shame. There's some goodies in there.
Yeah, and then like all of the other ones
are smaller. Like those are the big ones, I think, but still.
Yeah, and it's like some of them add a lot of lore to it, like when you get the Garu mask. There's the like I like the one where you get the bomb mask.
Right.
Because you can see you can see like multiple situations with that, to where like what happens if the bombs explode and kill him, what happens if he gets away, what happens if you do it successfully. And then you get the postman's hat that like lets you check the mail and everything, which I think's part of the one quest. I'm not really sure.
Kind of. It's part of the Andrew Cafe quest.
Yeah.
It's one of the endings because you have to do that quest twice if you want everything.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I really like it. And then like there's no story. It's one of the games that actually has a story and has the most story out of all of the Zelda games, really, until I would say Skyward Sword was the one that was the closest that had you caring about the side characters, because Twilight Princess and Wind Waker had you caring about a couple of characters. But with Skyward Sword, you actually get to know everyone on Skyloft almost as much as you get to know all of the people in Clocktown. But if you just, like, maybe he didn't take the time to go through all of the side quests. Maybe he just did two that he liked and then a couple of others that weren't good. And then he he just didn't bother with the rest. I don't know.
He's like, I don't want to trade in these land title deeds.
Yeah, or like getting
boring.
the all-night mask and learning about the story of the festival and everything, the giants.
I like that one, actually.
Yeah.
But I like stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
World building.
So go to the next one, Daniel.
The next bad review, or
Yeah.
we're doing another one? All right. I only picked up one before. One that
It can be a
worth
small
working
one.
on.
It doesn't matter.
It's gotta be worth it, though. It's gotta be a goodie. All right. I haven't read this one yet, but it's I'm just gonna choose this one. 2 out of 10 from Meta Censorship. He wrote in August of 2016. Okay. Wow, Nintendo. You're making me beat up kids now? Hold on. Am I looking at the right game? What? And it has to be some kids that wear a mask because he's ugly or something? Okay, I don't
Maybe he's
think this
talking
guy
about the
Skull Kid, maybe?
Skull Kid wears a mask. The children on the moon wear masks.
Okay.
But you don't beat them up.
Nintendo are bullies or something. Anyways, this game's weird and creepy. I think I turned into a tree or something and I was supposed to fight the moon. Not only are Nintendo bullies, but they also trip on acid or something occasionally. Like, what the bleep? 2 out of 10. Not the moon I was wanting to see. Where's the elf girl? So I think this is like a troll post, to be honest. I can't read this and think that they were being serious. Because clearly they don't know what is going on in this game. Like, they clearly don't get it. So that's really weird. Jesse, thoughts, problems, issues?
They were playing a different game.
I guess so. They were playing
Or
bully.
they were playing Majora's Mask drunk or something.
They got, yeah. You know, there's a song. I was gonna go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes a little different. This is
Oh, did you
I was
earlier
gonna play
today?
Zelda.
There's a cool story to go along with that song. Earlier
yeah?
today, I was going to go to work. No, I'm at work right now, technically. Kevin Smith posted on Instagram. It's like day 4 of Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which isn't technically a reboot. It's just in the universe of Jay and Silent Bob. The original movie, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, the entire plot of the movie, they were going to stop Jay and Silent Bob from being made because they didn't get paid for it and they were owed like millions of dollars or whatever. But
royalties.
In Jay and Silent Bob reboot, it's making fun of the idea of how everything's being rebooted. So they are rebooting the the Blunt Man and Chronic movie, which is the movie that they originally went to stop the first time. So in this one, they're going to stop the reboot. So like the title's a meta thing. But anyways, they took a picture earlier where it was Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes with Redman and Method Man, who did that song.
Right.
And was in the movie How High. So I just thought about bringing that up because we were talking about Kevin Smith earlier, and then you just happened to do the song, so they're connected.
My point is, I don't think the person that wrote this review was of the right mind. I think they were
Yeah.
the influence
Okay, so this
of
is
something.
here's the one that I got.
All right.
Where is it? Okay, yeah. From Woolgard. This game is pure trash. How can people like this game? The graphics are garbage bad. It's like a team of amateurs did this game. It's way too easy. The story is atrociously bad. All of the characters are forgettable. The fan base is way too much up Zelda ass. So,
This review was written in 2017. Does he know the game came out in the year 2000?
yeah. When technically, the Nintendo 64 graphically was more powerful than the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn, I think. Whatever was out at the time.
No, it wasn't Dreamcast. It was Saturn out at that point, right?
Yeah. And
it's all modeled in my head.
So it was more powerful than any of those, and even computers at the time. Like the graphics on games. For most computers, the Nintendo 64 was more powerful, because this was at a time when computers were actually behind the consoles, unless you had a really, really powerful computer at the time. But so the Nintendo 64 was more powerful than they were. And Majora's Mask, technically, had so much going on that you couldn't even play it on the base Nintendo 64. You needed the extra RAM and everything. For there was the time system in the game, but there was also
it's graphically superior to
Ocarina of Time. Like they had mentioned,
Link's model is even improved.
Yeah. But they mentioned that like they use it to have there was one interview where they mentioned in the Ottawa boss fight specifically, and a bunch of other areas, there are like bees or tiny bats or something like that that are all flying around him that also attack you. And they said that they were really proud of the amount of different AI or enemies they had on the screen at one time, because on the normal Nintendo 64 or other consoles, that amount of enemies on screen at one time would not be possible. It would just cause the console to crash.
Wow.
But they were able to do it. So, yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, so technically, Majora's Mask was one of the best looking games at the time, period. Not just on Nintendo 64, but out of every other game that existed at the time, it was one of the best. Especially if you do go and look at games like 007 or whatever, which were fun, but if you looked at the character models, it just looked bad.
And everyone's hands were like this.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the last one, though. Do you have any thoughts on it?
You just
like none of these were
all angry
criticism.
And write 2 sentences, throw some extra exclamation points, and fancy yourself like, "Yep, I'm a game."
Maybe if they would have used caps lock more, their point would have gotten across.
That's probably why. Yeah, that's how people take you seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
My hope in these.
Convince anyone.
Yeah, my hope in these is that someone will actually be like, this game is absolutely awful. Here's why. And then give legitimate reasons.
Here's the thing I think someone was missing. There's been some comments on some of the other videos where we're talking about bad reviews, but it's okay to not like these games. If you genuinely don't like them for good reasons, I get it.
Yeah, like Wind Waker. You spend way too much time selling around. That's a legitimate criticism.
There are genuine criticisms of games, and that's fine. But you can't just be like, I hate it because it sucks so bad. Nintendo, I hate you. Oh man, I'm a professional video game review writer. I'm such a professional. It doesn't. You gotta express yourself in a little bit of a better way. Maybe just calm down, breathe, and then write. Like
if you're going to go to a website, create a profile, go to your email, confirm on your email that you made a profile for the website, go back to the website, find the game page for the website, type out your review, if you're going to go through that entire process, at least give an actual review and not just like cry about it. So
that's the thing is, because it's not criticism at that point. It's just whining. I don't want to listen to you whine.
Yeah, which is why we read through it and kind of make fun of all of this, because we're
have a good laugh.
We're hoping to find one where someone is actually making good points, and then maybe like, because it is possible to where you're just such a fan of something that you can't see the negative stuff.
Sure.
So like maybe someone will bring up a point sometime to where it'll make us be like, oh, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. So anyways, do you have time for a final topic? There's no news article or anything. It's just a quick thing.
Sure.
It's about multiplayer.
Sure.
All
Let's do it.
Hello everyone, I am Jesse, or Game Over Jesse as all of you may know me. Here with us on the Hylian Gamescast is our co-host Daniel. Today I wanted to talk about what is to me one of Nintendo's biggest mistakes. Not only with the Nintendo Switch, but the Wii U as well. And to some extent the 3DS, although they have made more effort on the 3DS. The Virtual Boy was a mistake, yes. But I am talking about multiplayer. So Nintendo now has their online service to where they want you to pay money to play online with Splatoon and all of these other games, Pokemon, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart. And some of these actually do have great multiplayer. Splatoon 2 is really fun online, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart. These games are really fun. But then they have other games, like going back to the Wii U. One of the games that they brought over from the Wii U to the Switch was New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. And it was the same with like Super Mario 3D World or even Nintendo Land on the Wii U. Like there's just a lot of games that they do this with to where it has really great multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like
really
some of the best multiplayer, but there is absolutely no online multiplayer. And at the time when I would first play some of these games, I would think like I would kind of make up excuses for Nintendo in my head to where I would be like, okay, this makes sense. Like they didn't give this game multiplayer because whenever they go to make a sequel to it, one of the easy things they can do to like make the person think, well, I bought the first one, why do I need to buy the second one? Like it's just going to have a few new levels or whatever. Like if it's a sequel to Super Mario 3D World, then it's like, well, the gameplay is kind of the same. There's more levels. I didn't even finish the levels in the first one, so why should I buy the second one? And it's like, well, it's got online multiplayer. And suddenly, because not everyone always has 3 people at their house to play with, they can be like, oh, okay, well, now I can play with people online. This gives me a reason to actually buy this. Because if it's just to play the new levels, again, I didn't even play all of the old levels. With Super Mario Maker 2 that they just announced for Nintendo Switch, that would be a cool feature on there. You can still download other people's levels that they've made or edited. You can do all of that, but there's no, to my knowledge, way to actually play online with people, which we know they can. They had, even on the, what was it? On the Nintendo Switch, the NES Online.
Right.
There was the Mario, no, it wasn't that. It was an actual game that you'd buy and download off of, not on the eShop or the Switch, but it was like the Super Mario Versus Deluxe or something like that, to where it's like the Game Boy game. I can't think of the actual name of it, But anyways,
I
like,
don't know.
you and someone else converse each other by, like, it's online, but it's not online. Like, you're not playing. It's really weird. I don't know.
I don't know.
But, like, they added online functionality to it to where, like, it compares your high scores and stuff. I don't know. Point is, like,
Not really the same thing.
even
It's
with
online.
like the
Multiplayer.
Game Boy Pokemon game we talked about earlier, they went back, like, this game that was originally black and white on the Game Boy, they added online functionality to it. They're taking all of these NES games, soon to be SNES games when they bring that to the online service. They're adding multiplayer to all of these, but they can't add multiplayer to the games that are on the actual system that you're buying. When I always talk about this with Star Fox 64 3D on the Nintendo 3DS, a very, very inferior console on a game that is a remake to a Nintendo 64 game. Not only did they have voice chat on the game, not only did they have online multiplayer, but they had it so that there was, like, online multiplayer with video chat to where you could see the video of your friends that you're playing against above their R-Wing or whatever they have that they're using. And it's like, that's on the Nintendo 3DS. Yet, on the Nintendo Switch, with an online service you're paying for, which it's only $20, it's fine, whatever, $35, and you can add however many people to it.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have all of these great multiplayer games. Why, like, to me, that's one of Nintendo's biggest mistakes. Like, Nintendo Land that's perfect for online. And then they have Mario Party, which is, like, the newest Mario Party for the Nintendo Switch.
Mario Party.
It has online, but it's like,
Kind
it's
of.
only the mini games. Like, you can't actually play the fun part, like the competitive.
The board game.
It just
part.
it makes no sense to me. So to me, that's just it's Nintendo's biggest mistake. Like, if I'm talking about Nintendo as a whole, as opposed to a specific game or franchise, that to me is their biggest mistake. A few years ago, it would have been their naming situation, to where they have, like, the new 3DS and new Super Mario Brothers, but you don't need a new 3DS to play a game that has new in the title. Yet there are games without new in the title that you do need a new 3DS to play.
Yep.
Like, you can play New Super Mario Bros. On a normal 3DS, but you need a new 3DS to play the not new Xenoblade. And then what happens if someone comes in and asks for the new Mario, or like the newest Mario game at the time, and they give them New Super Mario Bros. When they're really asking for Super Mario 3D Land or something else. Like, and then they go with, like, the Wii to the Wii U, and it's like, what are they doing? Like, people didn't even know if it was, like, an accessory for the Wii, or because they had the Wii U Draw tablet that was just named U Draw, and it was like a weird drawing thing for the Wii that Ubisoft made.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
don't know if it was a tablet, but it was a game where, like, you would draw or whatever, and it was just called U Draw. So they had a game that began with U. So if you looked at it online, it would say Wii U Draw, and it just had a U because it was talking about U, but the U also represented Ubisoft.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible naming. Oh my goodness.
But
that was not good planning.
I worked at GameStop around the time the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out. Everyone would come in, they knew exactly what they were. But everyone thought the Wii U was just like the Wii. Even if they would have named it the Wii 2, that would have made more sense, because people would be used to it from PlayStation or whatever. And then with all of their old consoles, like, they had the Nintendo, and then the Super Nintendo. It was going to be the Ultra Nintendo before they called it the Nintendo 64 or Ultra 64, whatever the original thing was. And then they ended up Gamecube, Wii. So even if they would have called it Super Wii, all of the parents would have understood because they were like, well, they had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, now they have the Wii, Super Wii. Like, they did it before, so it's understandable. And then with the Game Boy, it's like Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS. Which a lot of people still thought the 3DS was just another version of the DS. But anyways, you get my point. That was the old thing. This is the new thing that I have a problem with. It's like, there's so many great games. Why can't we play them online? Recently, there was Luigi's Mansion remade. They added in multiplayer, but not online multiplayer. But it's still online multiplayer because you can kind of play online if they're in the same room as you. They don't even need the game, I don't think. It's really weird.
You download play? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. But they just play as like the Luigi's ghost. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is just
ghosts in that game?
Yeah. But
in Luigi's Mansion?
And my thought was, what if like this is just them experimenting because they actually plan on having online multiplayer in Luigi's Mansion 3 and they're actually trying to see if people are interested in multiplayer Luigi's Mansion. So
that makes
I don't
sense.
know. Marsupial says Pikmin 3 pure awesome. That's what I want.
That's one of my favorite.
Give me Pikmin 100 to where me and 99 of my friends can all play as individual Pikmin. No. All right.
But Pikmin 3 is pure awesome. I agree. It's one of my favorite Wii U games.
It is great. Really great graphics as well. Like when you come across a soda can or like a rusty nail or whatever they have in the game or a piece of grass, it looks realistic.
It does. It's one of the best looking Wii U games out there.
But do you have any thoughts on the multiplayer not being in some games? Are there games that don't have multiplayer you wish had it? Or
it's really surprising because there's a lot of sorry. There was a lot of games that I kind of anticipated it with the NES service that like I think we had announcements saying that they were going to be adding online features and stuff, and I don't know. Like I guess I don't play a lot of those games online, and some of them I'm like, okay, I get it. You don't need to add online features to Zelda 1, 2. But, you know, your Mario Bros and all that, like, why not? Couldn't be that hard to do. But that's all I got. I pretty much just further to your point. What you doing, Nintendo's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So to end this,
yeah,
this isn't going to be a thing of its own. I'm going to include it in this because someone was mentioning it in the chat when we talked about, and you kind of hinted towards it whenever we said Nintendo's biggest mistake. Someone mentioned VR and you mentioned the virtual console. Which some of the games for the virtual boy. Some of the games for it were great. Like they had Mario Kart and another Mario game that they were going to release, but they canceled them. It would have been cool to see what a Zelda game could have looked like on the Virtual Boy. But anyways,
yeah, it would have looked red.
What is Nintendo doing with this VR Labo thing? Like, did Labo itself sell enough for Nintendo to actually think Labo VR would be a good thing? Because I remember a few years ago, whenever PlayStation and Xbox, everyone announced their VR platforms, Reggie was like, well, it's okay, but they're not really doing anything fun or exciting, so we're not going to focus on that.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be... It's not VR in the same sense. Definitely not the same scope that, you know, you see competitors making. But this is very much tailored to a younger crowd. But it's really just gyro camera more than VR, I think is more accurate. what I've seen. But I guess Labo was doing well enough. Certainly has a huge profit margin because it's very cheap to make for them, I'm sure. Like, they still have to develop the softwares and stuff for it, but it's nowhere near as expensive
Strings and cardboard.
strings and cardboard, exactly. So it's I really enjoyed the Labo. You guys can see we've got some on my shelf behind me there. Like, so I don't want to harp on it because I do enjoy it. I only got the first one, but still, like, sitting down and making the sets and stuff is a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess they just figured they probably have a team of people just coming up with Labo ideas that figured they could make something neat with VR. But again, it's more just gyro camera than.
Do you remember?
I think only the one is like a wearable one. The other ones you have to hold too. So.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Like they have the long things where it looks like an elephant's nose or something's coming off like that. It's really weird the way that they have some of these. Someone mentioned like you have no excuse not to make Pokemon Snap 2 because the Wii U was already perfect for it, and now they have this where it's like VR. But anyways, Nintendo already has like current gen VR games to where if you go to some arcades, you can actually play a brand new Mario Kart game that probably uses the Mario Kart 8 and Deluxe engine, but it's in full VR to where I think it's made by Koei Tecmo, I think. Whoever makes the Pac-Man and stuff, because Pac-Man is actually in the game as well.
Okay.
So there are like third-party characters in it, but like there's the helmet you can put it on, and then when you drive through, like you can reach up and like almost as if you're touching the question blocks when you pass underneath them. So I wonder if that would be possible, but then I think maybe that would get someone too dizzy, and then they would be moving their head too fast to have the cardboard stay still. But that's the only thing that I could see them doing to where they have an actual game that is in VR that could run on the Switch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be a bunch of weird mini games like all of the other Labo games.
Yeah, I think the vehicle kit was the only one that was not like just tons of mini games that had its own sort of proper larger game. But even then, it was just sort of. I never played it, but it looked actually like probably a really neat one out of all of them. But they haven't shown off what the software side of things will be like at all, so who knows what that'll be like. We've just seen like one image of a poster, basically, right?
Could you imagine if they have this at E3? How many backup cardboard pieces they would need to demo it? Because even if people are being careful, like it just being handled by hundreds of people, like the cardboard, just like cardboard, like it could just break, or like people could be so sweaty that like the cardboard soaks up all the sweat, starts stinking, warping, bending. I don't know.
I don't like it.
Maybe they would have to use like metal or plastic and then just say this is
this is what it'll be like.
Yeah, this is kind of like just like paint the plastic or make the plastic look like cardboard and just be like, this is just a demo unit or whatever. So
Stakona in the chat caught me there. Yep, Robot Kit is its own game. Kit. My bad. I totally did. Because it came out at the same time as the first one.
Yeah. So do you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, it's neat. I want to see what the software side of things looks like for it, because it'll be neat to do sort of pseudo VR sort of thing, but it'll only be as neat as what you can actually do with it. So,
if they... Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if they have something, which I They probably did, I just don't remember. But if they have something to where you can have it on your head without holding it, then maybe they could do something like Nintendo Land, but like in VR, to where it is a good collection of mini games. Like Nintendo Land had a good collection of mini games that you can either use a normal controller or use the Joy-Cons, like the Zelda minigame, to where you don't necessarily move. Your character walks a path by itself, but then you can look around and you can press buttons to swing your sword, or you would aim the Wiimote to shoot the arrows, I think.
Gamepad was for the arrows.
And then you would actually swing the sword. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they had something like that with the Joy-Cons and in VR, I could see that working in VR. Like, that's not something that would need to be as intense. Because, like, having a game like Breath of the Wild in VR, it would not work.
That's so much.
Because, you're basically having to render the game twice from different perspectives for each eye, so it'll look 3D. And then you also need it to run at double the frame rate so that you can actually look at it without it juddering and getting motion sickness. So, anyways, that's all I've got. Do you have anything left for the podcast before we end?
That's all I got. That's all the time I've got. I've got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my or just to quote Reggie, rest in peace, Reggie.
Oh yeah, that is what he said, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but he's not dead, by the way, guys. I don't know why I said rest in peace. He's not dead.
No, he just let Bowser take over. But yeah,
yes.
Thank you for joining, Daniel, for this late night 3:30 a.m. podcast. Everyone that's watching this late, thank you. Thank you, Man Boy Cave. Man Cave.
The man/boy cave.
Yeah. So thank you for your little donation. Sorry about your dog. Everyone else, thank you for watching so very late. We usually have them earlier, but things have been hectic lately.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So, Daniel, where can everyone find you?
Right. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Twitch, which I stream on Twitch generally Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the morning. At Capt Burgerson, CAPTBURGERSON, and otherwise I'm here on this podcast every week. If you really want to talk to me, Twitter or Game Over Jesse's Discord is a great way to do it. And that's who I am.
I just noticed the text at the bottom says immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, it's been...
Get some oats in your...
Because I'm using my laptop instead of my computer, I didn't realize it was misspelled. That's funny. Yeah, I am...
Get that to the magic of editing.
Jesse, or Game Over Jesse, as all of you may know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything is /GameOverJesse. So twitter.com/GameOverJesse. If you want to support the YouTube channel, you can go to patreon.com/GameOverJesse, which we're actually using the money this month to get copies of Breath of the Wild to do a giveaway. So we're doing that, which is going to be signed by Patricia, the voice actress for Zelda, and Chris Chipluck, the voice actor for Sean Chipluck. Yeah, sorry. It's late.
It's okay. Yeah.
Sean Chipluck, the voice actor for Rivali,
and the Deku Tree.
The Great Deku Tree, and the other guy that I can't think of.
Teba.
Yeah. But he was also Trunks in a random dub of Dragon Ball Super.
Oh.
He was in some game that came out recently. I forgot what it was. It was like some really big game that everyone's playing.
Octopath Traveler, he was a couple of
Yeah, he was in that one
characters
too.
in that. Yeah.
This was a different one.
And I forget.
I don't think it was
was-
Kingdom Hearts.
But
So-
you can follow Sean on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyways,
As
it'll be
well.
signed by him and then maybe Joe, who we've had all of these people on the podcast a long time ago to talk about what it was like being in the Zelda games and being a voice actor and everything. But one giveaway is just for Patreon supporters, and another one is for Discord people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you become a Patreon and you join the Discord, then you have 2 chances of winning.
Yeah.
And if you follow on Instagram, lately what I've been doing, and I guess it's been working because I've been getting a lot of new follows, I've been posting random Zelda facts on Instagram with cool pictures, which everyone seems to like.
Yeah.
And
I like 'em.
finally, Daniel, myself, and Chiblima, or Kayla, as some of you may know. Daniel does Zelda streams or Pikmin streams, just game streams on his Twitch.
Whatever I want to play.
Chiblima's been streaming through Twilight Princess and Psychonauts on her Twitch and my YouTube channel. And collectively, we've all been doing a Ocarina of Time verse speedrun to where we all 3 play the game, trying to
Speedrun.
get through the game as fast as possible to beat everyone else. We just made it out of the Deku Tree and should be going into Dodongo's cavern sometime on the next episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, give us a follow. Capt, Bergerson, Chiblima, Game Over Jesse. And with that, we're done, I guess. What do we do now, Daniel?
Yeah, everybody, let's all go to bed.
Bye, everybody.